Hello and welcome to Get Into Medical School, advice from surgical residents. I am your host, Dr. Surgical Resident, and here we put together a small PowerPoint for you to get into medical school. This is what we call quote unquote high yield material, a term you will become quite familiar with. As we go through this PowerPoint, we'll be going through certain points that will hit along your timeline during this adventure of getting into medical school and eventually residency and eventually to becoming an attending. And as we go through, we are keeping both the traditional student and the non-traditional student in mind. So let's get started. All right, undergraduate years overall points. Three things and three things only. Listen up, write it down, here we go. Free labor. You will be required to do many free things throughout your career, throughout this adventure, throughout this journey of getting into medical school. Get used to it, but you can have fun with it. That is going to be things like volunteering in a laboratory, volunteering abroad, doing whatever you can to get the experience and to get onto your second point. That is networking. You need to meet people, not necessarily to get anything out of them, but to hear their stories as you travel and as you go to conferences and as you go through this process. You're going to meet people that will change your perspective. Networking is number two. And number three, of course, we all rather be lucky than good. Getting lucky is a part of this process. Getting into medical school, getting into residency, you gotta be lucky. We all rather be lucky than good. Three things, here we go: free labor, networking, and getting lucky. Point number two, research, work, and volunteer. You got to do research. You got to love it. It's going to take you far. We'll get into that next. Work. If you got to work, you got to work. Don't work at places that don't mean anything, like some of us worked at a bar or whatnot. Don't do that. It doesn't give you a story. Work somewhere where you can tell a story. Volunteer. We'll get into that later. One lab and one lab only, one lab and one lab to rule them all. Some of us like to, try to hop around to multiple labs, get multiple letters of rec. No, get to one lab, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Point number four, you are required to go abroad. Yes, whether you are a senior in high school listening to this, a freshman in college listening to this, you may not know, but you will be going abroad either sooner or later. Get a passport. This will give you a story. We will get into this a little bit later. And the next point is clubs and volunteering. Join them, but be passive. And the next point is taking the MCAT at least twice. Yes, twice. And as you will find out, unless if you're extremely fortunate, everything comes down to time and money. Keep that in mind. And let's get on to the next point. All right, med school life hackers, year one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I think they only let you get into undergraduate for 7 years, so hopefully you've made it there. It doesn't matter what year you are, when you decided. Number one point, get started, get serious. This is a long process. You got to get started early. Whenever you can, you have to be serious about this process. If you are, year one or two, or a little early on, and you still want to do research, you know, it's really easy to get pulled into a laboratory and you're stuck there. You may not like it. I see it. I've done it. I've been a part of that. I would suggest that you either do a day rotation or a week rotation. Just it's not necessarily about what they're doing in the lab. It's about the people in the lab. You're very eager to get, you're going to accept me, and you hop into it, but the people suck. And so you really got to interview the people, interview the lab, and keep in mind that this is something that you're going to be with them for a while. And the next point, number three, is a pre-health office. I'm surprised that not many students, I guess it's just not well advertised, because we also mentor other students online through different universities that they don't know that there's a pre-health office that exists, and they really help coordinate everything in this pre-med, pre-dental, whatever path. And so if you have one, find them. It doesn't matter if you're year one or year seven, find them and get started. All right, you're getting the theme now. Get started. Personal statement. Whether you are year 1 or year 7, you need to start writing this now. It is the most difficult thing you will ever have to do. And what is even more embarrassing, you're going to have many people read this. And you're not going to want to do it, but trust me, if you submit this thing without any other eyes on it, you're going to look like an idiot. We have seen many, many personal statements, and we can tell the difference between a well thought out one and one that is just submitted overnight. Get started now on this. Next point, you're getting the theme. Get started. Get a passport if you don't already have one, because you will be going places. Whether you like it or not, many of us have been to conferences abroad. We have presented in Japan, in Spain, in South America, and if your research is good enough and you're good enough, you will be going places whether you like it or not. Get a passport. And if you're a non-traditional student, again, you have to get started on this process, whether you like it or not, whether you don't know what to do. If you follow these steps on these slides, you will be at least on a path to where you can figure out what you need to do and when you need to do it. And we will get into that a little later for the non-traditional students. Again, get started. I would suggest, if you don't know where to get started, contact your alma mater where your undergraduate was, and they can point you in the right direction. Alrighty, volunteering. Let's get this over with. If you're going to volunteer, do it big. If I could do this over again, I would have volunteered in a hospital on my own with residents, not with a program, because it really just sucks up your time. It doesn't give you a good story. All you do is show up, sign in a spreadsheet, log in your hours, and it's really lame. So I would highly suggest not signing up for one of those volunteer in a hospital. You'll see a ton of people do it, and it's really sad that it's still going on. That is your life hack. If I were you, I would grab that passport. I would volunteer cleaning oceans. I would volunteer on a farm in South America. I would volunteer on mission trips abroad with your church or whatever group. Your school or your college has an undergraduate study abroad office, and they can point you in that type of direction. That is a much more enriching story, that when you come in to interview with us, that is something to talk about. We don't care necessarily that you've seen a cardiothoracic surgery. We've seen that. We don't care. It doesn't impress us. And so I would really remember that, we want to talk about you feeding pigs, you getting chased by a boar, and, getting lost in the Amazon jungle and getting malaria or something. I mean, that makes for a good conversation. All right, life hackers, here we go. Research. What are you interested in? A lot of us are interested in science, biology, public health, law, right? It doesn't have to be in a wet lab. You don't have to be pipetting all day. Although some of us did that, some of us like it. You're going to have to find a lab where you're going to be committed to that lab during the school year. You need to find this person. They are going to be your mentor, as far as you can talk to this person for anything. Believe it or not, although you want to go into a health field, you're an undergraduate. You should be exploring the nuts and bolts of science and biology and getting into a lab. Or if you're more into public health, you should really start looking into policy and having finding mentors that are going to help you navigate through that process. And with that, of course, you may not know this, but we are very surprised at how very little, research competitions we see on applicants. We see publications here and there, but we don't see research posted presentations. Some of us really take advantage of this. That is because a lot of the societies, local, national, and abroad, look for students to present, because they always have a student section in these annual, monthly, yearly conferences, and they have travel scholarships. And so again, grab that passport, go abroad. Some of us as undergraduates have been to many countries where we have presented our research and have had a great time, right? Really highly, highly recommend you getting into research. People don't like it for whatever reason, but I mean, this is your ticket for stories and travel. Trust me, you will thank yourself. That's why we put this slide as number 1. And we think that this is, something that we can talk to you about, because you have much more to talk about than just the science. And of course, you will get publications to put on your AMCAS application. And like we said before, one lab and one lab only, asterisk, summer. Here we go. In the summer, again, we are very surprised that a lot of people don't realize that there are summer fellowships. So pause this, Google, open a spreadsheet, Google, undergraduate summer research project, undergraduate summer research fellowships, and you will just start, you know, finding all these programs that you're interested in. And so we will give you a spreadsheet, very generic, that you can start using, and we highly suggest that you start filling this up with multiple tabs and that you find the lab or the location that you want to do. One guy in our program did research every summer in Hawaii, right? Tropical medicine. Amazing. Some people do research in the NIH every summer. And the NIH is a very prestigious thing, but once you get in there, you can go there, live in Bethesda, Maryland for every summer, and in that way, you will always go back to the same lab. Lab in the undergraduate fall and spring semester, NIH, Hawaii during the summer, travel abroad in the summer, you can't beat it. Non-traditionals, unfortunately, if you're non-traditional, research is going to be hard to come by. You are really going to have to make up with that by getting good grades and good MCAT scores. We understand that you don't have this, and so don't put too much pressure on yourself to think that you have to do research if you're non-traditional. And of course, your life hack, embrace the research. It'll take you places. Grab your passport and go. And you'll get a letter of recommendation. Okay, MCAT. It's changed. Honestly, a lot of us took it, looked away, and never looked at the website again. It is a hard test. It is a terrible test. It has changed since most of us have taken it. We will not lie. We, believe that they added a humanitarian and psychology section, but the principles stay the same. Princeton Kaplan, they're the pros. Don't sign up for these bootleg classes, that you've never heard of. These are the professionals. They've been doing it for 50, 60, 100 years. They know what to do. They know what the test takes, right? Take it more than once. Now, I don't mean sign up for the $1,000 class once, twice, and do it again. Somebody around you has the downloads, the videos, old or new, as you go through your classes as undergraduate years, or if you're non-traditional, as you go through your open university, or as you go through your classes, you need to watch these videos because they will tell you, although your professors are teaching you because they come from certain backgrounds and certain specialties, watch these videos in between because this is the generic stuff that you will be tested on. And so somehow find those, watch the videos, and when you're ready to take the MCAT in the summer, take that in-person course, or in the spring, or whenever you're ready to take it, sign up for a short course, and by that time, you've looked over all those videos and you'll be in the in-person course engaged, and not like most people, you'll be looking around that course and everybody's writing everything down, they're scrambling, they have no idea what's going on, it's their first time in the class, they just spent $2,000 something, and at that point, you are just not chilling, but you are in tune, you are listening, and you can follow along with these guys who have gotten very high marks on the MCATs. They know how to take the test. And at this point, you guys may not understand, but the trick to all of these tests are to do just a lot of questions. Buy the books, do the questions. It'll pay off in the end. Non-traditional students, you're gonna essentially follow the same path. Watch the videos, attend the class, lots of questions, and kill the test. Your life hack is to take it multiple times, not the test, the class. If you do have to take the test, MCAT, multiple times, a lot of us have, don't get discouraged, but essentially, you can't do the same thing twice. You need to reevaluate what you were doing, what you need to change, and it's mostly one subject. Essentially, it's one subject that you need to focus on. Some of us, it was the physics. Some of us, it was the verbal reasoning. And so you need to pin down what your problem is and get after it. All right, MD, DO, US, Caribbean, where do I go? Where do I apply? It's a lot of money. This is the no-nonsense approach to it. MD, US, obviously, is a lot better than any other program or school. DO and Caribbean seem to be evening out these days because of the ACGME process has changed, but it is still better than most of the foreign medical graduates that are applying, which seem to be getting pushed out. Some of us are applying multiple times. What are those three things, right? Getting lucky, networking, and doing things for free. At some point in that process where you didn't get in the first time, something is going to happen that you will be getting in. Either you will be, working as a research assistant, you will be volunteering. Something is going to happen where you need to change that application, where you'll be adding something, you have met somebody, a new school has opened, you get lucky, which is in some of our cases, and so you have to apply. Some of us have applied 3-4 times. I think I've heard somebody apply 7 times. I don't think they got in, but 3 or 4 is up there across all boards, according to DOMD. Caribbean, if you have decent enough scores, you could probably get in. ACGME process has changed. MDs, DOs, everybody, it is one process this year. 2020 is the first year that is going to be one match process. This is going to be an interesting year for all of us, and so we will see how that affects everybody. For those of you that don't know, the MDs and Caribbeans and FFGs had their own process, and the DOs had their own separate one. And so essentially all the DO programs are open to everybody, and so it is a free-for-all. It is all one process to rule them all. Non-traditionals, when applying to medical school, the ACGME process for match doesn't really matter for you, but usually for non-traditionals, unless if you have a crazy story, MDs, apply to new schools or ones that require lower scores. Let's just be real. You probably have a higher chance of getting into the DO and Caribbean schools. Some of us, we all applied to MD schools at first, didn't get in, applied to DO schools, got in, didn't get in, and then applied to Caribbean. That's usually the tier and the flow of applying to the schools for most of us. Life hack, in the end, it doesn't matter. We all are here. We're all MD, DO, Caribbean. We all are in the U.S. matching to these programs and are all going to become doctors, and we all introduce ourselves. Hello, my name is Dr. So-and-so. Applying, you guys will explore these websites, the AMCAS website, look it up, your letters of rec, you will get one of them from your research mentor. The other ones will come from anybody and anywhere. Find them, track them down. They're usually hard. If you have to write one for yourself, you are the best thing since sliced butter, bread, whatever. And so usually sometimes they will ask. Some of us, like myself, will say, hey, can I get a letter of rec? If I haven't heard from them for a while, I usually try to type something up and be like, hey, this is what I thought about myself. What do you think? And they will use those, points to add into the letter of rec. It's a process. These guys have to sit down and write these letters. It is long, so, try to help them out a little bit. Since you have had your personal statement since day one, right, getting started, then you can also email them these personal statements in your letter of recommendation request. And keep in mind that you're going to be asking the same guy, like, for a recommendation letter that may be tailored differently for multiple projects, because for these travel scholarships or for other scholarships, they require letters of recommendation. And so, like we said, that you have to be really cool with this lab and with this mentor and other people you meet in the community who may have to support you for these multiple projects that you will be carrying on multiple fronts. And so these personal statements from day one, having these requests and having your resume and CV ready, which we are going to give you a template for, just ready in a package to go to these guys. So it's going to be very easy for them to write these letters of rec that you will be using throughout your years. You literally, from year one, you will have a letter of recommendation. Same thing for non-traditionals. You got to contact those people that you've networked with in the past and see if they can write you a letter, package them with your CV, your personal statement. This is what I'm doing, a small bloop that, this is why I'm applying to medical school if you're non-traditional. We have lawyers in our class, financial advisors, bankers, that they just were fed up and they just transitioned over and they just decided they didn't want to do it. And so, we're interviewing them as residents or as med students, and they have a good story, and so we know that they're driven and they just don't want in their field. And so you're not necessarily out of the game. You actually may, it's an even playing field. And applying life hack, ready from day one. Go back to that slide, and these are all the things you will need to have in your pocket in order to be successful. Okay? Career changers, like we just went over. If you have changed your career, go for it. You may have to do a post-bac or a open university, post-bac with an MS program, post-bac with certificate. You do what you got to do, pay for it with money or take out some loans. And, we have, I would say in a class of 100, about 10 to 15% of those people are over 40, career changers, very interesting individuals going on to be family practice, to peds, to neurosurgeons. I mean, don't count yourself out, go for it. You have a good story. If you have low grades for whatever reason, you are going to have to take the post-baccalaureate route. We're not BSing in this. We're not going to tell you to apply. You can apply, you probably won't get in, but on your AMCAS application, in the end, it tells you your cumulative GPA. And if it is low, you really got to consider doing a post-bac, doing well, open university, getting more classes in, getting that GPA up, or with that low GPA, just don't even apply to MD, apply to a few DOs, going straight to the Caribbean, or, Australia has a program that is linked with New Orleans. There's some universities in Ireland. Do your research if you have low scores and don't have the time, to do this other route, and if you just want to get in. If you're still an undergraduate and you decided late, let's say if you're an engineering major, like some of us may have been, and you decided, that you want to go into medicine, you still have a chance that if you do well in those courses, you take some, time to take some science classes, or, let's say if you're going through, you graduated now, you're working a 9 to 5, you don't like it, then that's when you are essentially going into the career changer path and having to, start thinking about working part-time or taking night classes in order to make up, time and money essentially in your application. If you're not a science major, don't worry about it. Apply. You guys are all essentially equal because on the MCATs, it's only 2 years worth of courses tested. Everything now in this day and age is time, money, and dedication for this process. It is long, it is arduous, it is fun, it does not have to be daunting. Enjoy yourself through it is essentially our theme here, and that you don't have to go through that, I have to graduate in 3 years and I have to get all A's and I have to show up, because we see those students and we see those people and they're not very conversational to a point where we would want them into the class. Yes, very smart, very bright, but the people we rather have around are the people that become our family during this whole process, that we can talk to throughout the long nights of studying or the long nights of doing shift calls as a medical student. And so essentially, some of us have been through this process and have studied abroad, or have, taken a year of research, or have gotten grant money, or, just taken our time and have been, 5, 6 years through this process. And, and it is just a much more enriching experience when we come across those residents that we're interviewing, or those medical students we're interviewing, and those undergraduate students we're interviewing. And that's mostly what our conversation is about. Not necessarily what you have studied, but what you have done and where you have been. And like a lot of us believe, find that lab that will take you places, and it's going to be up to you if you want to volunteer or not. MCAT, whatever you need to do, get your hands on the videos, a PDF or an old book, look through it, flip through it. When you take the live course, it's not a surprise. Taking your undergraduate courses is not enough to pass this class. It is a standardized test, and you need to standardize yourself. Your letters of rec, you need to find them, track them down, get your personal statement, your CV ready, give it to them in a package, give them a little blurb of what you think about yourself. It will not harm you, it will only help you. When you're applying, everything is ready. Now, we use the phone in this content because we all believe that, we are residents, surgical residents, and so we are a little bit older than the people that may be listening to this. And we believe that, when you pick up the phone, great things happen. A lot of us, can tell you stories that when we just asked, a lot of things happen for us that, probably wouldn't have, because a lot of emails get bombarded, a lot of emails, get overlooked. And when you pick up the phone and you really want something, great things will happen. If you're a traditional or non-traditional applicant, we're all the same. Publish your research, go to posters, get travel scholarships. We, look at everybody the same. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you've done. You really can do this, and these are all points that you can really just focus on instead of trying to do what everybody else is doing. This is what you need to do, and you really need to become laser focused during this process. If you have any comments, leave them below. We are going to be coming out with more content here soon. And so this is our first video, life hacking, getting into medical school. We are surgical residents that have been through this process, seen there, done that, seen all sorts of medical students, residents, as well as undergraduates and non-traditionals like yourself. We know what they want. We can get you in. Please look forward to our next video, and we appreciate you listening.